Let's go over the tradition of Chaz T. Main. It's held many names and been sold off many times after a successful operation. Run out of Gori, a monastery and monastic tradition of the Irish, the Iberians, and of course the Georgians and Taiwanese. Gori has the concept of the freedom of men and a division of class through both the law abiding and the criminal living in harmony. If you obey the law, you're capable of making a police arrest. You don't try to drink out of your thumb. You're dirty. You get a bunco assignment the best the government can fit you. A president gets the smoky hat on him if he's drinking off the thumb glass. That guy gets on TV on the liberal corporatist media for doing a job well done. A famous monster. What if you just work at a convenience store? Well, then you're a police informant. You shoplifted. 3.5 shots, a trick invented by the Chinese Jew, the Cantonese. So let's go over some of our operatives filed in through Cuba and the Chinese triads and Japanese bankers through prayer cards held up in here in Boston, the Knights Templar. Not always related to the Mexican gang cartel set. Although with the advent of bitcoins and investment in an open Cuba, progress could be made. Tanacharison. The identification of agents pressing fraud as corporal surgeons claiming police license, hence identifying police as a medical agent. That's the Hanseatically as a target to draft. That was featured finally in Assassin's Creed, all the games. John Wilkes Booth. The identification of those attempting quotient of test to place in care of wealthy as poor, based upon intent of act necessitating, we'll skip that word, necessitating psychiatric barrister, none given purpose of test. That's the monarchy of Spain. The sales of marijuana to Jews and Africans to control the Irish Manx and African trades in coal, iron, cotton, rice, Spanish rice, native rice, Roz, sugar, and of course tobacco. That's the video game series Quake. Whisker, a rare one in my family, a cousin. The difference viewed between Irish as king and Irish as Slav. That's Slavic, Russian. However, sent from Britain after offense to Jew, both EW and UWE. The latter on top, the Scottish Congress, after Prince Cotchus, who you call St. Patrick, winning battle against Breton, or British, Breton being the high house of the Jutes, Juctes, King Arthur, not through honest asylum in English Isle. That means you're in Britain, not Ireland. That's Resident Evil, the potato famine, and of course Reconstruction under Ulysses S. Grant, and live hunts of Irish Slavs by British merrymakers, the British Jewish class, the incoming stalwarts and machine politicians, opposed by the know-nothings, the anti-immigration lot and crowd. Lee Harvey Oswald, the creation of a brand as necessary to steal, hence the application of loser, test already viewed. Alcoholic, that's a boycott in the family, and washed up, removed from history as viewed through the eyes of the Swede, the narcotics trafficker. Lee Harvey Oswald's family invented Dr. Pepper. He was a soda jerk, a little pharmacist kid that made sugars and treats. That's the video game Doom. The target was Golda Meir and the mutual entrapment offense. The mutual entrapment. King, Martin Luther King Jr. The notice of management as slave, hence any consumer, was leadership in terms of positive response to firm. The further pressure of promotion, hence family, as a trap at low-income job. With promotion through proper work at academics at upwards utility of age, not trap of prison inmate having failed the same test. They moved beyond their low-income job and took a secondary apprenticeship. That's the Baptist Church and the Chinese buffet. The Kings have since moved from restaurant management, the lounge, into delivery driving, following Al Sharpton's investments in the lodge. Not Masonic or Freemasonic temple, just a model of restaurant to tourists out of the African South. Super Mario Brothers. Saran, the brother on embassy loan of Lady Diana, the former and late wife of Crown Prince Charles II, soon to ascend. Apology if he already has when you're watching. The notice of police officer arresting themselves after having frauded self at own order through bank teller, through view of local programming news, held secret at false documentary, influenced through Jesuit of order. Hence the news was false and reversed report of import, to program subject matter labeled to control recruited police and locality of political mayor's logic. That's the Murdoch family's Fox News Combine, local news. Now fixed to compete with CNN, Saran's founding concept. That's Pac-Man and the classic Pac-Man games. George Young, Boston George. The notification of score at track and field or field hockey, athletics, as unknown for police officer qualification, hence placement in arms dealership as cartoon by other arms dealer labeled Canadian Mounted. Rather an uniform service, but uniform as name of wearing. Actually a standard police federal rather than a secret office name of state, controlled by own uniform officers as being the oversight Byzantine as orchestrated from below. That's Burger Man and those little cooking games. This is actually unusual. George Young was too fat to be a cop, but he mastered track relay, so he figured out the actual cops running his unit, the CIA, he was the smuggler of narcotics, information, and guns, could be arrested at any time by any cop with a vest and his unit on the back with him as a terrorist. They weren't the CIA, that was the local county police and sheriffs. He was up against the Fraternal Order of the Police, and now they have big and fat members, so I guess you win, large man. You'd still do the same athletics as anybody else did. You too, big ladies. Lesbianism is no shame. If you're big and you have those thoughts, badge up. O.J. Simpson. The scholarship is necessary to pass, not win. Hence, any placement of logo is endorsement. Admission of tantamount at secondary, guilt of state. Such as any rig, a support of collector's item, that's Flutie Flakes, not Wheaties. The lowest admission of achievement, hence management over monetized sum collected of single in billions, but through tens of thousands extended through the abstract of economy. Hence all sum of college workless, given athletic achievement in film or notoriety through label on children's product. This was the war in the faith between the Russian Orthodox Gori and the Greek Orthodox Istanbul. Palestine suffered mightily. That's Wolfenstein, or Wolfenstein if you prefer my pronunciation as a pirate. Finally, me. This one you may have seen on the news if you grew up in the 90s. The view of the circus as the draft of the innocent to serve convict, that's something that did somebody, through notice of demographic upon software on your computer as essential, a test of compliance. Therefore, any system of limited rapport is not for open data. That means you can't trade data on this program. You have to pay for it. Not anymore. But rather a lack of mirth. The intelligence infrastructure to destroy a politician through loss of life through word applied, such as the cyberpunk gaming studio Tanacharison Games having caused the station fire in Rhode Island. Lincoln Chafee was trying to limit the NSA and state police cooperation in his region, preying on people with porn plans for alleged tax evasion. Actually, just poor people on disability, taxes not required to be paid. Ask an accountant at H&R Block, they'll still bust you, they're dirty. But we tried to stop it. And this is through the word applied in ancient antiquity. That's a street rumor. Creating an evil through language applied to dictionary. That means there's a new word removed upon consolidate. That's the larger compound word or complex phrase. In common word of rumor, again the street word, the high castled ivory tower of the artistic claim to control poor through readership. That's your high school lit or a comic or a movie, not actual ability. They're not actual ability. They can't make art and you can't make it, but they've got a mega structure out. Ignorance of your constitution, 1 or 2 lines. Therefore, the ability of poor impossible, all art to be ignored in favor of finance, control of your own family. Don't pay attention to the movies, kids. My game is Halo, my foe is the Magna Carta, and the House of Tudor to be scandalized. As well as presidents between Bush stepping down for Huckabee and several candidates opposing and financiers, all the way to Biden's circumcision to straighten them out. The target was the Nazi Amish femdom cult where naval sailors are tortured as bondage slaves. If you've got the guts to look up the horror of what used to happen before we had FetLife, OnlyFans, loyal fans, and ways to get hookers with webcams, look up Lady Carol with an E at the end. Lady Carol. Those are drawn by women who really do every single picture you see. If you're Navy veterans, that was what you used to look at. Now the high bloodlines advertise in porn instead of farmers' daughters, but they're the same thing. So, whenever I happen to go down, I go down. I was a psychoanalyst and a politician, they don't mix. You can't have a psychoanalyst who has to analyze things as separate through police information indirect and a politician, somebody who distrusts nursing and psychiatric services through the system having failed them through somebody else in a broad way. It just doesn't fit. It's a ghost in the machine, a ghost in the shell. You can't spot them because they can't spot you in Signal.